Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi Thorn Alliance. I'm Jacob.
I'm Luke.
Welcome back to episode 2 of our podcast. So, what have you been watching? Like and subscribe, join the cause, share the video, hit the notification bell. So, how's your viewing been going this week, Luke?
Yeah, it's been good. I haven't watched as much as I did last week. I've kind of continued on with the same shows.
Life gets busy.
Yeah, I have been busy this week, but there is some new stuff coming out that I'm going to endeavour to watch before next week. I know you've been watching a few things. What are some of the things you've got into this week?
The Tourists, Devs, and Stay Close.
Okay. I've seen a few ads for The Tourist that's on Stan. It's an original Australian series.
Yeah.
What is it? Like, from the ads, it looks like someone's, like, lost their memory, something along those lines?
Yeah, basically this person loses memories and we kind of uncover the mystery as the show goes on. For an Australian show, it was okay and kind of, I would recommend watching it. It was a fine show.
Do you think it's more appealing to Australians than it would be to people overseas?
Yeah, probably most likely. I don't really see how, besides people that like love seeing the outback and stuff like that, I kind of don't see the big audience that it would appeal to unless some people want to see the Australian culture that are tourists.
Yeah, so is it a limited series or an ongoing series, you think?
It's titled as a limited series, but there's definitely more that they could do, so it's left open, yeah.
Okay. That might be something we can talk about today or later on about our thoughts on limited series and just normal regular series. So what was the other show you said you watched? The Tourist and...
Devs.
Devs. Okay, what's that? I have no idea. I've not heard of it.
Basically the concept of Devs is that the main character's lost her boyfriend and is investigating the mystery behind what's happened to him and the true intentions of the company behind what Devs actually is and what they're trying to do. So it's a science mystery thriller, very different than your normal TV show, but I liked it and it's a limited series, so that made it even more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Where did you find this?
On Binge.
Binge, okay. American series, British series?
American series, yeah.
Any notable actors I might know?
Maybe Nick from Fargo and different things, but he's wearing kind of a wig and stuff like that.
Okay, I haven't seen Fargo, so I may not know the guy. What would your initial rating be on something like that? Do you think it was...
Probably around a 3.5. I think it was enjoyable. Some things about it, I guess, with the science, some people might not like it because of that, but it was definitely worth the watch.
Mm-hmm. And the other show was...
Stay Close.
Okay, and we talked about this a bit before we started the recording. I was thinking of a different show, so I had something completely different in mind. What's the premise of this show?
Basically, someone's gone missing and the police are trying to find this person, and then it unveils into a bigger mystery with the people involved in the show. The main character has been about to get married, and then we uncover that she had a secret life before she met her husband, and a lot more things unveil as the show goes on.
And what's the structure? This limited series, normal series?
Yeah, limited series, British show.
What was the best show out of the three you watched this week?
Probably because it was a mystery, probably Stay Close. I felt like it engaged and each episode ended with a cliffhanger because they needed to keep you watching, so probably stay close.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know if I'm that intrigued to watch any of those. I'm a bit iffy on, mysteries and dramas and cop shows and whatnot. Maybe. As I said, I've been continuing with the same stuff, been watching a few episodes of Workaholics, a couple more episodes of The Righteous Gemstones.
What's going on with that show?
Righteous Gemstones. So, I'm still in season 1, and I believe season 2's out, and season 3's been finished recording. That's what I think, but I can't seem to find season 2 on anywhere, but Binge does say that season 2 is coming. So I believe it's already been on Foxtel probably, and they're just adding it to Binge a little bit late. So in that show, it's, as I said, it's about this like rich religious family that own like churches and run like an organization, and they're a bit dodgy, and some of them have done a few things that could ruin their reputation. So it's like blackmail and a bit of crime, and it's a different spin on like what you'd think for people that were religious. So it's entertaining. I think it's the actors in it outpower how good the storyline is. The storyline is good, but the acting power that's in it is probably its draw card. Well, it was for me. Maybe others don't care who Adam Devine is, or Danny. I forgot his name. He writes it, but yeah, people may not be interested in Danny McBride. They may not care too much for them, or they might be big John Goodman fans. I'm not sure, but the storyline is very good, but I think the actors are what gets you interested. And Workaholic, towards the end of season 3, it doesn't really continue on as a show. So as of what's going on, it's hard to say. The most recent episode I watched was their boss was expecting a raise and she didn't get it, so she decided to quit, and then they got someone in from higher up than her in management to come and become their new boss, and he was like horrible and actually made them work and follow structure, and they didn't like it, so the office kind of worked together to get him fired. So it was a funny episode, but definitely not one of their best. Considering I've seen the series several times before, I don't remember seeing this, so that goes to show how unmemorable it was. But yeah, so that's what I've been watching. You tell me what you've been watching. You had some topics you said off camera that you wanted to bring up. What do you want to talk about first?
I guess, what's your tiers or your things that a show must entice you for it to at least get its first episode? What are your things?
I do like a show if the first episode is good and it takes off and it gets you hooked. But a slow build can be good, but it needs to have something special to keep you entertained. It needs to either have a good premise or maybe even a good trailer that alludes to something big is going to happen, or good actors. But I am a fan of a show with a faster start. What do you think about that? What's your opinion on how it should start?
I guess it depends if it's a limited series or a normal show, but for a normal show, I think, if it sets up the world and tells its story and sets up the characters, that's kind of fine. And then I believe in a better ending than a better start, because I find that people remember the ending more than the beginning. Because, for example, Game of Thrones, the most beloved show when it was coming out, and now people are like, oh, it's a terrible show because of the ending, and that's what we remember more, the finished product instead of the start.
Yeah, definitely. That show has been tainted because of that. I just think of shows I really like, I go, the first episode was the best. Probably not the best in the whole series, but it stands out as a really good start. So I do prefer that. But it's not a must. I tend to like to know if it's going to have another series before I begin it, which isn't always a given. But if it's a show, let's say you newly discover a show and someone goes, hey, you should watch Friends, and so they've never seen it. They go, oh, there's this many seasons. You go, oh, well, I want to invest my time in this because I know that there's a good storyline. Where a show that we both really liked, Utopia, that didn't get a second season, so I don't know if I could recommend that to someone now. Even though it was a great show, how do I recommend it to someone knowing that it finished on a cliffhanger and we don't get the answers we want?
Yeah.
So having guarantee of multiple seasons is always a good thing to have, but you can't always get that.
Yeah. So is story more important to you, or characters, or writing with things making sense, or like with everything in life, a mixture of between and kind of structure? Because you could have the most famous actor in there and the writing's terrible.
Oh, a good mixture is going to be the correct answer, probably. But I guess there's things you can work around with that. If you got really good actors, sometimes you can get away with
Poor writing.
Poor writing, or sometimes they can make it better, or the storyline you can kind of forget it if it's got a star-studded cast. But you see through that eventually. That can work for a little bit, but then it fades away. So, I think the storyline's got to be the best part. The characters obviously help build the story, but having really good characters but a bad storyline wouldn't appeal to me. But that's unlikely to happen, because if it's good writing and a good storyline, the characters will come good. I find it hard to think of a scenario where the character can be a standout but the show can be poor. Like, I'm sure there is examples, but usually it's hard to have one without the other. But I think maybe the storyline's the building blocks, because without a good storyline, how do you build a good character?
What's been your favourite story to get invested in and kind of lost in the magic of the storytelling?
Well, it's a tough question. Where do I stick at it? No, where to pick one that stands out? It's funny because the shows that come to mind that I really enjoy and I can watch time and time again are probably more
comedies.
Well, they're comedies, and I think characters in comedies are probably more important, because you're more laughing at the person opposed to what they do. Like, you are laughing at what they do, but you just can't chuck in someone that isn't funny and get them to do the same thing and make it work. So with comedies, it's a character-based thing, but maybe shows where I got caught in the storyline, probably more mysteries would come to mind, like maybe season 1 of Truth Be Told. I got caught in the storyline, what was going on, and less in the characters, but then the second season came more about the characters, and that's when it, to me, I lost its charm. So I think maybe it's a genre thing. Maybe mysteries and crime and drama need to be about the story, where comedies can be more about the characters. It really isn't, there's a horses for courses kind of thing. So one that stood out, it's too hard, I can't really answer that question. What about you? Have you got something that stands out, or what do you think about the idea that different genres might have, can get away with things that other genres can't?
Yeah, that's a good argument. Different genres, yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense? You reckon, like, a comedy, yes, it's got to have I guess comedies aren't really about the storyline, because there's a lot of comedies that don't really follow on sitcoms. Like, they might have a general story that follows through, but it's more about the individual episodes, which then, to me, comes down to the characters within the episode.
Yeah.
Any more criteria? So for me, storyline's important, good characters. I find it hard to sometimes to separate the characters from the actors. So you could have a good actor in a poor character, and I wouldn't mind that. But if you have this really awesome character and then the actor's like a nobody, sometimes it might get overlooked. So it does help to have star power.
Yeah, I would agree with that, yeah.
What other topics could we talk about?
Do you think it's kind of the writers can do whatever they want to do, have a slow start, action start, in between. There's always going to be problems that people will just never be happy. We always look at nitpicks and it's just an endless thing that unfortunately we do to ourselves, and we make it hard to the writers sometimes.
Yes and no. I think people are generally negative. I think the world tends to go towards that. And we're guilty of the same thing. We always can think of nitpicks or something we want to pull out about a show, but sometimes you just got to look at it for what it is and ask, did you enjoy it? And I think we both understand that and we can do it. And there's other people that don't. They have to be, the lighting was a bit off there, or this actor could have been better, or the pacing wasn't right. All these things, it's like, at the end of the day, did you enjoy it? Did the writer come up with a good story? Because even if the writer writes a good story, you then still have directors that will, when they try and turn what's on paper into on film, they have a different interpretation of it. Then you have the actors who might interpret it differently again and act differently than what the writer and the producer and the director had in mind. And then you've got the producer that afterwards might cut out scenes, change things, and then it gets a whole different vibe. So you could have wrote this amazing love story, and then the director sees it a bit differently, and they try and make it a bit of a mystery, and then the actor tries to make it funny, and then the producer and post-production, they re-edit it a bit differently, and then it comes across as something different again, and it's different than what the writer originally had written. So sometimes you can't always be critical on the story. I think it may be something we've recently watched, Ghostbusters. I think, for me, there's plot holes in it, but was it entertaining? Yes, yeah. And that's good enough. If you pull apart every plot hole, you're going to be, or something you didn't like about it, it'd be too hard, because what we might hate about a movie is something someone else loves about it. So how do you please everyone? What are your thoughts on the matter about?
I guess it's that thing that you just, as a creator, you kind of create that you want to do, and then kind of try and do the best job, because they're people as well, and kind of accept that people are always going to have feedback, and kind of embrace that. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to please anyone, and I guess it's a good thing and bad thing.
Yeah, sometimes I think about with shows, sometimes I'm being critical on it or bad-mouthing. It's just a matter of, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Like, sometimes it's just as simple as, I don't like it. You think of, in sports, my favourite player could be someone else's least favourite player, just because they play on different teams. But that doesn't reflect the person. It's just, I don't like you because you play for a team I don't like, and then they don't like the guy I like because he plays for a team they don't like. But it's just, and you never please everyone. So sometimes you have to go, well, I just don't want to watch that. Not that it was necessarily bad, it just wasn't of interest to me. Well, I think a lot of people that do reviews are always like, oh, it's rubbish, there's this wrong with it. And it's like, well, could you do better? Like, I've never attempted to write a TV show or a movie, but I'm sure it's not easy. I wouldn't know where to start. So sometimes you've got to give credit for just attempting it and doing an okay job. There's circumstances where I guess shows or movies have a really good platform and then they get it wrong. And you go, well, that was silly. But beyond that, or like they have something working and then they change it and make it bad. Like, truth be told, just sticks out to me for so many things that went wrong. And maybe even like Fatherhood that we watched on Netflix. They're like, they had all the right things there and still managed to get it wrong. So you go, oh, maybe that deserves to be critical. But there's others, like I think Ghostbusters is entertaining enough. Like we don't need to pull it apart.
How do you find with the streaming kind of world that we live in, that how do you find kind of, you want to watch a show, you find that you have to own every streaming service, it's kind of an endless battle to try and be able to watch a show. Like, it seems harder nowadays.
Oh, it's very frustrating, I guess, because everyone and anyone is trying to create a streaming service, and they're taking their own original content and bringing it to their streaming service. So let's say there was certain shows that were once on Amazon Prime or Netflix, and they're like, oh, well, we are actually property of FX. So FX make a streaming service, and they go, we want our shows back. So then if you ever want to watch those, you then got to join. So now it's at the point where every single studio or company has their own streaming service. So you end up having to join 10 different streaming services to really watch all the things you might want to watch. And that could cost you a couple $100 a month. It's insane. It's coming way too expensive. And I guess you got to pick and choose what you want. And I guess you could subscribe to something for a month, and once you finish watching what you want, get rid of it. But then, I don't know, imagine, I don't know if I'd feel great paying $15 to join a new streaming service to watch a season of a show and then unsubscribe. So I just paid $15 to watch that. But compare that to the cost of a movie, then I don't know, maybe it is good. Maybe that's the way you've got to do it. You got to just join for a month and then cancel and only rejoin when there's a new thing you want. What do you think about the whole cost and how many streaming services are out there?
Oh, I think it's becoming to a point when it's it would be nice if that, there was one streaming service to rule them all, but it's kind of getting to a point when that's where we're heading. And unfortunately, if you want to watch a particular show, you're kind of going to be upset because you kind of have to own that streaming service. It's kind of become harder but easier to watch TV shows nowadays. It's kind of different to when you can just own a DVD player, buy that specific season and watch it.
Yeah, and you can see where shows get the idea, why they do it. Because you go, well, we made this content, we're now lending it to Netflix. Netflix are paying us so much to use it, but they might say, well, actually, we could make more money if we put it on our own streaming service, cut out the middleman. So you can see why it's happening. I don't like it, but I guess it's what has to happen. There's just more and more popping up. Like, we've got Paramount Plus now, which I really think has very little content. Well, in Australia it does, and there's others that are falling to the wayside. Like, I'm finding I don't see the appeal in Amazon Prime Video anymore. There's very little on that I want to watch. Netflix, that seems to be the most consistent. There's always something on there. And Disney Plus is great, but they're only great when a new show's coming out. In between that, I'm not going back to watch old episodes of Hannah Montana. Like, what are you watching it for? And then I guess their series are generally so big that you only get a couple episodes every year, or even 2 years apart, some of them. So it does come difficult. What's your favourite streaming service at the moment?
Probably Netflix or Binge, because there's some new content on Binge, and I like to separate and kind of share between the streaming services. But I find Netflix have always been the one that I always come back to.
Yeah, Netflix, I feel the same about it. At the moment, which one's getting the most view time for me? I think the only new series I'm really watching is on Binge, and that's Righteous Gemstones. But Binge I've not watched at all really in the past. I pay the $14 a month for it, and I don't get value out of it really. So that probably is one that's getting watched the most at the moment. And Stan might get a bit, but there's new stuff coming out. So I think Binge is going to get a bit of a watch this weekend. What show do you think I'm talking about? I might be watching on Binge.
Peacemaker.
Yeah, so we've reacted to the trailer to that. We're interested in it. What can you tell people about it so far? We've a few episodes coming out. Where can you find it?
Basically in Australia, Peacemaker's on binge with 3 episodes, and then doing the whole weekly thing for 7 episodes, I believe. And then following the events from the Suicide Squad movie. So hopefully it turns out well, and it'll be worth watching.
Yeah, so we got 3 episodes out now. I'm probably going to try and watch the 3 over the weekend. We might do a week-by-week release of them. We could at least do a video to say what our thoughts were on the first 3. So when do they come out? Thursdays, okay. I think it's going to be good. I think John Cena's going to be funny in it. I think it'd be nice to see DC bring out a show that might compete with some of the new Marvel shows that have been on Disney Plus. It possibly could be better, but we don't know. I think DC's funny. I think Marvel overall are very, very consistent, but DC, when they do bring out something good, I think it outperforms Marvel. But yeah, it's hit and miss. Maybe that might be a good debate for another day. DC and Marvel and what we think about it.
Yeah.
Any other topics you wanted to talk about this week?
I guess going back to the limited series versus TV shows, I know I've talked about a lot in other videos, but I just kind of get more excited and more invested about limited series. I guess you know that it's a one-shot or one-told story, and you kind of know that you get invested in the storyline, and then hopefully it ends well, but it's kind of worth the ride. Versus a TV show, sometimes it's not worth the investment because it could only get 1 season, and then eventually it could end and get cancelled, but ends in a cliffhanger. So I think limited series, there's less risk involved. There's less chance of, you got 8, 6, 10 episodes, and then you can get excited for it. But I don't know about you, Luke, because the last Stay Close, it kind of ended in a way that you're like, shock value with the ending, but it concluded the show, but they left room for like a possible follow-up.
I guess it's no different than a movie. Movies can do that. You want to end on this like cliffhanger that makes people go, I hope they bring out another one, but they're like, we're not. We're just teasing you. It's a bit of fun. I do sway towards I like the limited series, but it needs to be a certain topic, like a limited series for me needs to be like a drama or a mystery. Like, what would be the point of doing like a sitcom limited series and then ends and you're like, well, I like the characters, I laugh, but it's not coming back. Like, it needs to really have a start and an end. But I guess that's how limited series can be enjoyable, because you know that's all you got to write. You're like, we need to squeeze in 8 episodes of content, where no one, when they write a pilot for a show, go, yeah, we'll try and get 2 seasons out of this. We'll write it so that after the second season ends, your intention is, we want this to keep going. We want 10 seasons of this thing. So you've got to try and write things with the intention that it's going to carry on. And it's like, at what point? And that's, I guess, you see a lot of series start to get dry towards the end or run out of content, because you're like, well, they're just making it for the sake of making it, because they may have agreed to X amount of seasons, but they don't really have enough content to carry it, or they're trying to drag it out, or they try and conclude it. They try and bring in a character or a storyline that you're like, this is just to conclude this show, and it's not very good, but they've got to do it to conclude it. So yeah, there's bit for both, I guess, with limited series too. If you really do begin to like it, you go, oh, I wish there was more, but there isn't. So it's very much depends on the style. Again, back to that idea that maybe dramas are better off limited series and mysteries are and comedies aren't, and depends on the topic. Limited series do tend to be quite often true stories more often than not, or something that was like a book that they've now turned into a movie, like a limited series movie. So I like it. I am in favour of them.
Is there anything that you're looking forward to watching, or
in the next week? Peacemaker. Continue with what else I've been watching. I've been really wanting to rewatch the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans.
Okay.
And every week I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it this week, and it just doesn't come around to it. So maybe this might be the week to watch it. My wife's not too interested in it, but I want to watch it. I just think comparing that to the Tom Holland one, so that could be a topic for another day. Comparing Spider-Mans, I think it's more serious, where Tom Holland's meant to be fun, and I think the new Spider-Mans are better in terms of enjoyment, but I think the Tobey Maguire one was very, broody Spider-Man, So that's something I would like to watch. What are you hoping to watch in the next week?
Definitely Peacemaker, and I guess try and find new things to get invested in.
Yeah, you always seem to find new stuff. You watch a lot more stuff than I do. You always got something cool and different. So I'm sure you'll find something we've not heard of.
Well, thank you for helping, Luke. Hope you enjoyed episode 2 of the podcast. Like and subscribe. See you in episode 3. Let the force be with you. Bye-bye.